You ready, Greg?
Let's go, Jay.
You're listening to The Success Paradigm with your hosts, Jay Atkins and Greg Gray.
All right, here we are, Jay Atkins, and we have Megan Eddings with us. So, folks, I'm telling you, you might want to buckle your seatbelts here. This is going to be quite a ride, and just so many things to be able to talk about with Megan. But let me do the formal. I will read the introduction because I think that is in good form. So, Megan Eddings is the founder and CEO of Accel Lifestyle, the first socially conscious and fashionable fitness apparel brand. While Eddings revolutionary Prema, am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are.
Very good. Prema antibacterial fabric was originally created to fight odor in fitness apparel. It first and foremost fights bacteria. With her background in chemistry from the University of Virginia, she invented Prema, and it is now patent pending in 120 countries. From fitness apparel to PPE provider, Eddings is proud to make every day a healthy day, promoting wellness, confidence, and kindness. Accel Lifestyle was one of the first companies in the USA to start making face masks back in March 2020. Wonder what was going on around that period of time. Her vision, risk-taking, game-changing attitude caught the attention of the U.S. military, and her company was added to the U.S. military contract 2 years ahead of when companies are normally approved. She went from winning first place and $10,000 in her first business pitch competition 2 years before she launched Accel Lifestyle to a seven-figure revenue in 2020. Eddings is now the CEO of three separate companies: Accel Lifestyle, Blended Humanity, and I love that, H-U-E, Manity, and Accel Unite. She was chosen as one of Inc. magazine's top founders, chosen as top three startups in the country, and one of 40 founders chosen for Inc. magazine's Founders Project. Eddings even has a day, this makes me jealous, honestly. Eddings even has a day, May 24th, named after her in Houston, Texas, for her philanthropic work. She has a passion for giving back, and the bigger her companies get, the more she can give back and inspire others to do the same. She believes in thinking big and then thinking bigger. On a mission to bring joy wherever she goes, Eddings strives to help everyone feel more confident. We only get one life. Just go for it. That sounds like your story. Megan Eddings, thank you so much for joining us on the Success Paradigm. We are thrilled to have you here.
All right, everybody got
Greg
their
and
buckle on?
Jay. Wow, yeah.
Let's buckle up because this is going to be a fun ride, Megan. I can't wait to.
Don't forget that shoulder strap. Yeah.
I got an old car. I don't do the shoulder strap, man. I just go around the waist. So Megan, I've heard a lot about you, and I've been really excited about this day of interviewing you. And, before we started, I got on here and I said to you, when I read your bio and I heard about you, one of the people that you reminded me of, and, I'm always careful because people don't like to be compared to other people, typically, right? I mean, like if you compare me to Michael Jordan or, Tiger Woods or something like that, my feelings would not be hurt either, right? And I compared you to someone that I think is a powerhouse, but not only in business, but just in life. And it was Sarah Blakely. That's what that bio and what I've learned about you reminds me of. And you said, you know what? That's the number one compliment you could have ever given me. And I will tell you this, I haven't interviewed you yet, but that comment that you told me why you're successful. And that's because you have no ego. And people have lots of ego, and that's the reason they're not successful. And as soon as you said that comment, I said, I'm going to love interviewing this girl because she doesn't have ego and she's going to share everything that people want to know about success. So thank you for starting it off before we even started this with that, because I knew who you were before we started. So as we always start these podcasts off, what I think is important is the story. Most people see the glory. Most people see a seven-figure business, but they didn't know what you did here or what's happened in your life to make you think about this product that you created, becoming an entrepreneur, the failures along the way. And what we like to ask our guests is to start where you want to start, that you think is relevant to our listeners, of what's important in your life that kind of got you to where you are right now. So that could be out of high school, could be college, wherever it is, we would just like to start hearing your story so that we can get to know you a little bit more. And I'm sure the glory is far from over. I think what you're doing and building is probably going to be in the 8 to 9 figures in the future, maybe even 10 figures like Sarah Blakely. So it's your show. Tell us. I want to know. I want to learn from you.
Oh, I'm getting like sweaty palms of excitement over here. Yeah, thank you so much, Greg and Jay. This is awesome, and I love, and I put it on my Facebook page. People tuning in. I love you guys did not send the questions beforehand, so you're just going to be throwing them at me. Besides this first one, and then boom, let's go. So, really, I'll start kind of like where the pivotal points throughout my life. I'm turning 40. I'm always honest about my age, my weight, my height. I don't really care. So I'll be 40 this month, and born and raised in Rhode Island.
No ego.
Yeah. I mean,
people
we all
that don't care about their age. No ego.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It wasn't always like that. And we'll get into that. I used to be embarrassed about talking about some parts that I'm going to bring up because they weren't, affluent, flashy, et cetera. But honestly, looking back at it, I'm like, it is those experiences that have gotten me to where I am today. And I can, share my story. So born and raised in Rhode Island. So you will hear a little bit of a funny accent, even though I've lived here in Houston for 15 years. Went to school in University of Virginia, and born and raised in Rhode Island. My mom has 10 siblings. My dad, who passed away, we'll get to that in a little bit. He had 4 siblings, and I have 2 brothers. We grew up in I'm not going to say poor family. We never, but we never had the extras. My dad made $26,000 a year. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and our big going out every year was Pizza Hut and a movie for $1.25 a movie every year on New Year's Eve. So that's the only time throughout the whole year my family could afford to go out. And so whenever I see a Pizza Hut, someday I might want to own a Pizza Hut just for that.
How about that? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it started. And so we didn't know that we didn't have extra stuff because we were in a house full of love and we played all the sports and, all that stuff. My parents didn't go to college. But they always raised us with a work ethic. So my brothers didn't go to college, but one of them actually just started January of this year at 38 years old. So we're super proud of them. And but we were always raised with a work ethic. So I have an electrician brother, a helicopter mechanic brother who's a former Marine, and then myself. And so my parents always said, no matter what you do, your name is behind it. I don't care if you're tying a shoelace, if you're opening a door for someone. So what you do, your name's behind it, and your work ethic and your word is everything. So we were all raised like that. So I got into University of Virginia and majored in chemistry, had no idea what I wanted to do with it. You're young, you're dumb, like whatever. You're like, I love science and I have no idea what I'm going to do. Well, in college, my roommate, I never had a sister. So she was a sister I never had, same major as me. Unfortunately, she was diagnosed with cancer and actually passed away. So I decided, and at that time I was like, well, maybe I'll work at Revlon because I love fashion. I'll work at Revlon and I'll, design lipsticks or just whatever. And when she passed away, I said, okay, God, I believe in God. I'm like, I hear you. I'm going to take my science background and dedicate my life to finding a cure for cancer because that was my first real loss I've ever experienced. So I worked at a protein cancer lab at UVA. I worked up at Brown University in a lab, also focused on proteins and cancer. And then there was one day, I will never forget it. I walked out, I had my white lab coat on, I'm in early 20s, and I said, oh crap, I cannot work in a lab the rest of my life. I am way too outgoing. Like I know I had this worldwide mission to cure cancer. It can't happen because I'm not being fulfilled. I didn't know those words, not being fulfilled back then, but it was the feeling that I had. And so again, I'm like, God, just keep me open, like keep my eyes and my journey open. And I always say, I don't care if someone believes in God or not, or a universe or a power or a spirit, but I believe there is something that is guiding us to greatness if we choose to open our eyes and kind of embrace it. So at that young age, I basically said, show me the way. And I randomly, nothing's random, met this guy who said I'd be great in this thing called medical equipment sales. And he's like, you make bank, you get to dress cute, they give you a car, they give you a phone, they give you a computer. You can make as much money as you want, depending on how much you can sell. And I'm like, I can sell anything to anybody. I mean, I was #1 Girl Scout cookie seller when I was 10 years old, so I can do this. So that's what brought me here to Houston. I worked for Siemens Medical for years and a couple other medical equipment companies, and I loved it. It literally checked every single box of what I love. I love relationships. I love strategy. I love winning, meeting new people, solutions to problems, just all that stuff. And never did I think in those 13 years that I'd be an entrepreneur. Never even crossed my mind once. I did know, though, subconsciously, that my skill sets that God gave me were not at capacity. There was more I could be giving, but I didn't know what it was. So fast forward to 2012, I'm at a work meeting, like we all, back when the restaurants were open, sitting at a restaurant on a Tuesday afternoon with one of my sales reps, counterparts, talking about business like we all do. And I look down at my phone and I see back-to-back missed calls, one from mom and one from my older brother, Dave, the electrician. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So I excused myself and something told me to go outside, and I got the phone call, and it was my brother. I called him that my dad had just, quite frankly, dropped dead. 58 years old, massive heart attack. He and my brother were doing yard work. So Dave was there when it happened. And, dad was healthy, working out. We were, all getting healthy. I mean, I grew up in a very fitness minded family. And that moment was it was like the experience of walking out of Brown saying, I need to do something different. I don't know what it is. And that moment are the two moments that I think of that were like, okay, my life just shifted. And so I fly home immediately that day, back to Rhode Island from Houston. I'm not even going to say I was devastated. It was complete shock. It was just complete shock. So we're really close to our priest back home. And it's actually funny. My family and I are sitting in a room with him day 2. And he said, he's like, okay, so who's going to write the eulogy? And, dad and I were best friends. I wasn't married, wasn't even dating. I was actually dating like a part-time job, to be honest, at the time. But so priest says, Father Steve, okay, who's going to write it? I'm like, well, I'll write it. And I'm like, Father Steve, you can give it. And so he's like, oh no. He's like, someone in the family has to give the eulogy. So me being outgoing and in sales, all eyes just went to me. And I'm like, here we go. So gave the eulogy. It was, I honored my father, well. 2 weeks later, I'm in the back, at home still, and I had another aha moment, like a feeling that you can't shake. Like you try to shake it because it's not something tangible you can see, smell, or touch, but you can feel it. And it was, Megan, you're not doing enough. You just stood up there and gave your dad's eulogy for 25 minutes. He worked for the same company for 35 years, and I never once brought up his job. Not on purpose. It just wasn't what mattered. I brought up how he made people laugh, how he helped people. He ate a lot of food. He liked food and restaurants. But it dawned on me that here I am dedicating way more than 40 hours a week to medical equipment sales. But what am I doing for the world in doing that besides, providing medical equipment? And again, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but God or universe or someone show me the way. 6 weeks later, I go on a blind date. And I mean, this is only like 2012. This is like this is not like 1995 or 85 where like only MySpace existed. Like there was social media in 2012. My now husband had nothing. So I was trying to stalk him online to see what he looked like. I couldn't find a thing, but a lady that I trust set me up with him. And so I went on one date, and it was amazing. And I felt, I was dating for like a part-time job here in Houston. And that was it. We started dating, got married in 2015, started washing his workout clothes. And that's when my entrepreneurial journey began with his workout clothes. So I'll stop there if you want to
No, I've been waiting because I knew that was part of the pivotal thing because that's part of your story. There you go. So for people that don't really know exactly how because that's a catapult into where you are right now with Accel.
That's right.
So tell that story because I think people will be fascinated to hear that piece.
So, gosh, let me see. We're in 2021 right now. So about 5 years ago, roughly, I'm literally just like we all do, I'm not like the doting wife or like whatever, believe in certain things, but I was doing the laundry, whatever. I've gotten some flack from some people out there that I talk about me doing the laundry. I'm like, well, he was washing the dishes. What are you going to do? So I'm washing the laundry I just decided to be honest. So I'm doing the laundry. And early on, I realized his laundry will not be mixed with mine. Let's just set that start right there. So when I was doing laundry, I was doing my load and his load. And so we all know, I don't care if you work out or not. If you work out, you know that polyester dry fit wicking material that we all love because it wicks the sweat away. It's breathable and doesn't hold on to the sweat. If you're a female, a lot of times we wear like work dresses or even like the shirt I'm wearing right now. It's made out of not cotton. So polyester, rayon, nylon, etc. And women, even if you're not working out, you're like, man, why do my underarms smell? I know I showered. I know I put on deodorant. Like at the gym, you're like, shit, is that me? And so we've all been there. And so I just started adding like those lavender scented pods to to the wash cycle, to the dryer sheets. I don't tell this story a lot because it's really aggressive on how my personality works. I couldn't get the smell out, and I was so bothered that I called a dryer washer repairman to come over to make sure that our washing machine was working. And I've only told that like twice in the last like 4 years. So that's kind of aggressive, but it drove me nuts.
It was an issue. It had to be resolved.
It had to be.
Okay.
And so at the time, I'm loving medical equipment sales. No complaints. I loved my boss. I loved the money. I loved my customers, all of it. But the smell of Kyle's shirts, I couldn't, because basically it would smell okay. We all know this. It would smell okay. It would be dry. He'd put it on, and the moment he started sweating, I coined this term in our household. I'm like, sweetheart, your shirt's activated, which means like the sweat caused it. So like we all know,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like and people laugh at me because I don't have body odor. Like and people are like, yeah, right. Like my feet don't stink and my armpits don't stink, right? But when I wear those shirts, like within 5 minutes, I'm like,
is this me? Yeah.
Is that me? Like I don't ever like. And I remember when I first started dating, I was like, I don't stink, and she was like, I beg to differ. Like you definitely, and you're right about those shirts. And you know what? And I think you just gave people a tip on here. Like before you get married, wash your spouse's clothes, because that will.
It could be a make or break. I mean, there's a few things there's a few things you got to do before tie the knot. That's got to be one of them.
So, and by the way, I've heard Jay talk about that before, and so you gave me a gift. So my kids usually refer to it as smelling like outside. So activated is actually just upgraded my language a little bit around that, and
I got that.
I'm sure there will be I'm sure there will be other things that will be golden for us.
It should be in your marketing for your clothes.
Yes, activated, not you smell like because there's some measure of that keeps someone's dignity intact, and I think that's important, especially for guys. Testosterone doesn't take a hit too well. So, but anyway, he activated. It was driving you crazy.
Yep.
Something had to give.
And the pinnacle moment where I'm researching, kind of on Google, like when I pull up to my hospitals early for a meeting, Rule 101, be early to everything. That I've lived my life like that my whole life. Be early to everything. You just never know. And if you show up late, you're disrespecting yourself and the person that you're meeting with. So every single hospital meeting I go to, I'm always early, which gave me time to kind of do a little research. But the icing on the cake is he was away. He travels a lot for work, and he was away, and I threw away his favorite t-shirt from college. This green t-shirt, had like a muscle man on it. It was like that thin, holes in it, whatever, because the stank was real. And my husband's like the nicest person ever. Like he's the shyer, more reserved, and he was not happy.
Oh,
and so I thought, this is like his, I don't know what he did in that t-shirt in college, but he was upset that I threw it away. So that was it. I said, this is ridiculous. I'm selling $3 million MRI machines to hospitals. They are prepping to get people on Mars, and we don't have clothes that don't stink. It was just it was really that basic. So around that time is when I started, and we'll bring up Sarah Blakely right now. So right when I threw away that shirt, the next day, I'm like, here we go. I'm going to figure this out. And so as I'm doing, and we'll get into that, like, a myriad of cold calls, like just calling, emailing. I don't know these people. I said to myself, okay, I have zero business background. I have sales. That's in my DNA since I was born. I'm outgoing. I'm not afraid to ask for help. But as far as starting a business, LLC, S Corp, I didn't know anything. How do you even get your own website? No idea. So I said, well, I drive a lot. So also in being an entrepreneur or trying to do a new path, we forget how many spots during the day we actually have to do meaningful things. I mean, a lot of people on their phone at the end of the week have like how much time you spend on, on your phone. Well, how much of that time was actually productive towards, bettering your family, bettering your health, bettering your business? Probably not a lot. We were probably just scrolling and comparing ourselves to other people and feeling bad about ourselves, etc. Now, social media, I think, is an amazing tool for positivity, encouragement, empowerment. But a lot of times we just forget. I mean, even just driving to work, take that time and do something for you. So I decided, I wish I remember where. The first podcast I ever listened to, and I tell this to everyone, is NPR, How I Built This with Guy Raz. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, about 4.5. And it just so happened you can scroll the episodes and see who he interviews. And if you don't know who the person's name is, you see the company and read a bio. Well, again, I was not even thinking really of being an entrepreneur then, but kind of intrigued. So Sarah Blakely, I mean, unless you're living under a rock, like everyone has at least heard of Spanx, worn 3 pairs at a time, I mean, like, what Spanx are. I mean, and if you don't, you at least know the business story. But back then, because I wasn't an entrepreneur, I didn't really follow her journey or know a lot about it. First podcast, NPR, How I Built This, Sarah Blakely. And I can tell you, I-10, Louisiana, where I was driving, from the moment I heard her speak, I remember thinking to myself, it wasn't the words she was saying. This is like the moment, like the first 30 seconds. It wasn't the words she was saying, it was how she was saying them. Because as you mentioned, Jay, she's a billionaire. I mean, she's a billionaire that has built, I didn't realize at the time, this conglomerate from nothing and just, hard work, dedication, passion. But her voice was so real and like she could be a friend. And I think I expected maybe an attitude of superiority, an attitude of better than, or, talking down. It was the complete opposite. I'm like, yo, let's grab a martini and just kick it and go dancing at clubs like that. It was unbelievable. So that was my first thing. Like,
she literally went door to door to door to retail stores and big box stores to try to get her product in. And basically she admits, like, I begged, pleaded on my hands and knees, like, just give it a chance. Like, I don't even need to make a profit. I just want people to try my product, which is just, like you said, I mean, she's just so humble. And still, like most people that become a billionaire kind of lose that humbleness a little bit. They become, the shiznits, when they walk in the door, and she still doesn't have that.
No, actually, it's in that podcast. I'll never forget it. And I've done it. A store, won't mention a name, I mean, it's a big store. They started carrying her line and she wasn't seeing the purchasing like she wanted to. So she walked in there like a total gangster and takes the product and puts it at the checkout counter. So, now when you go to stores, a lot of them have those little things you can buy, or like Godiva chocolate or a bottle of water. She's like, I'm getting them at the counter. So she starts walking around and putting her product at the counter. And I'm literally, that is like a gangster baller move. And like, I'm like, this person. So she's still, to the day, I think about her every week about what would Sarah Blakely do? And so anyway, husband stinky workout clothes, listening to podcasts, loads of research. I mean, like, just literally, I knew nothing about starting my own company. I knew nothing about why our clothes smelled, but I knew it was something microscopic that I couldn't see. And having the science background, there's always, science and math are very cross the T, dot the I. It takes a lot of research. It's not a philosophy. It's exact science. And so I just had to somehow figure it out and pray that people that did know the answer or answers would help me for free, because I didn't have any money. And I just said to myself, man, if I just come from a place of humble, trying, serious, not wasting time, and I ask in an appropriate way of, please give me advice and guidance, then hopefully they'll do it. And if not, they can maybe introduce me to somebody else who can answer the question. And through that mindset, again, I don't think I knew the word mindset 4 or 5 years ago, but that's, through that mindset, that's literally what got me to, I'd be on conference calls, I'm not even kidding, with 10 people, all dudes, which is hysterical, from the whole East Coast. So the textile world is still pretty much on the East Coast, a little bit on the West Coast if you're making apparel, but as far as making fabric, it's the East Coast. So I'd be on a call with these conference calls, 8 to 10 guys. I've never met one of them. A lot of them haven't met each other, but they all had a special skill set when it comes to developing fabric. And I think to myself, if I knew back then how challenging it was to create a fabric from scratch, would I have done it? And quite frankly, it's a tough question to answer because that didn't happen. And what I've learned in that experience is and we've heard this before in entrepreneurial things, is not knowing is a gift and a blessing. Right. Because if you know what you're getting yourself into, you're closed-minded into the 10 steps I have to do to, make fabric. Or because I knew nothing, I just went in there like a naive Nelly and just, people would say, oh, you can't make fabric 100% made in the United States. All that stuff's going overseas. I'm like, oh, tell me no one more time. So what I did was I was trying to find anti-stink fabric that feels soft and was made in the United States. That's it. Because I did a bunch, just research about sweatshops and never even really gave sweatshops a thought. It's something that we know exists, but if it's not in front of us all the time and it's not on mainstream media, we don't think about it. We think about what mainstream media puts in front of us. And so I just watched this podcast, The True Cost on Netflix about 4.5 years ago, all about sweatshops. And not only the effects on the workers, but also the effects of the chemical leakage in these surrounding towns, in third world countries. So I remember I have a philosophy. I have to be able to put my head on the pillow at night, every single night, and know that things did not go well that day, or the whole day doesn't go perfectly. But I did the best that I could for humanity and the environment and everyone around me. Am I always giving great news? Am I always receiving great news? No. But at the end of the day, did I do my best? And I also tell people, a lot of times people say, well, there's a gray area. There's a gray area. No, there's never a gray area. It is black and white. There's right and wrong. And there's things that make you think. But at the end of the day, it's that answer and the voice is in your stomach. So it's not always easy to do that because there are some days I want to slash tires. I'm not going to lie, like, for sure. And this wonderful girl on our team, Teresa Wynn, she's our community manager and she's literally an angel, like sent from above. And so I do these jokes in the office, like, oh, we didn't slash any tires today. So like 3 weeks after working with me, she says, well, Megan, how many tires have you slashed? I'm like, girl, none. Like there's not a physical bone. I'm a hugger, not a fighter. And so she's like, oh, okay. I said, well, Teresa, how did it make you feel thinking that I was slashing tires? She's like, protected. And I laughed so hard.
There you go.
Like,
she saw it as strength. She's like, we are going to be fine here.
So my next question would be, how many virtual tires have you slashed?
In your head. There you go.
You know how those numbers you were saying earlier about how big my companies are going to get? Add a zero. Yeah, add a zero. Add a zero. But it gets easier as you go. I mean, you guys know, like in the beginning, entrepreneurship, not knowing. I mean, I would have these, I've never had panic attacks ever in my life. I've had, nervous, upset stomach, sweaty palms, heart beating before a presentation, but I've never had a straight up panic attack. Early on, when I was still in medical equipment sales and I was hardcore developing this fabric and, listening to these podcasts, I would have these phone calls with these fabric guys, and textiles is a whole different language. Like picture like someone who repairs a car engine. They know words that we've never heard. So I'm on these calls with these textile guys and they're saying words I don't know. And all I'm thinking of is like, don't sound like an idiot because then they're not going to like call you again. So I remember getting off some phone calls and I would just have this. I remember it was like I would be short of breath. I would start sweating and it was almost like a physical compact was crushing me. And you mentioned ego. My husband and I have done a lot of research on ego. And that I believe was my ego telling me, oh, you can't, this is way outside your comfort zone. You can't do this, Megan. You can't do this. Your background, there's no way you can do this with your background. And so when you recognize what it is, then you can just recognize it, push it aside and just go for it. And then with all these podcasts I listen to, and I hope what I'm doing right now is that the fear, no one's alone. And I wish I remember the book. Maybe you guys know. Early on, I read one of these, famous business books. And the author said, whether you make $5,000 a year or $5 billion a year, you have fear. It's just how you choose to kind of take that fear head on, recognize it, and move beyond it. And so again, coming from, no money and, paying my way through college and always having a job, I thought, okay, so even like a billionaire has fear. So if they have fear and I have fear and they can grow a successful company, well, then so can I. It was just all these drops of information and just things that would be in the smallest things in front of me, that literally changed my mindset over my whole life, but specifically the last 4 years. So yeah, go ahead.
And I think, what you're saying, I really love it. I mean, fear always is going to exist, and people in their head, they think when I have this certain level of success, I'm not going to have these fears or these thoughts. And I think fear makes you uncomfortable, but as long as you take action, then you can have success. But most people, it cripples them, right? So that's the biggest difference. When you have fear, are you crippled? And again, what you spoke of, the ego is really what cripples you, because it's the conversation you're having inside of your own head that really is in your way. So I love that you said that, because fear, I think people always think they're going to arrive. And, bigger money, bigger business, bigger problems, so now you're thinking about something different. And I think it's good for everyone to know that, just take that head on, I'm sure you have fears still, right?
Oh,
you've got a 7-figure business, but it's not going to get to 8 figures without fear. It's just a matter of your attitude and what you're going to do every single day. So that's an awesome takeaway.
Well,
Jay,
you mentioned, because that particular comment that Jay just said brought me to something that I'm counting at least 3 times you said, because I think this is going to be something that a lot of people can relate to. You said some version of, I just knew I wasn't at my capacity. I just knew there was something else, or I just felt like there was something bigger. And you said that over and over and over again. And I think that's a common thing that people feel on a regular basis. Just in the regular course of their life. But a lot of people don't move beyond that. They just kind of figure it's out there somewhere, and if it's for me, I'll get it. It's a very passive approach to it. But I think this conversation that we're having right now about, because at every point you did something, is like, so whether it was going from, working in cancer research, and so then it was, medical equipment sales, and it was just that, always that itch. But what I'm hoping people will get from what you're saying, Megan, is that part is common. What's uncommon is, what do you do when that voice starts saying to you, I'm not running on all cylinders? Not that I'm doing a bad job where I am, but I just feel, you said unfulfilled. That was one of the words you used. And I think fear is what keeps people at that spot, because even though I'm unfulfilled, I know my unfulfilledness. I don't know if that's the actual word or not, but I'm comfortable here because at least I know where I am. But if I have to go, because I'm a person of faith as well, if I have to go to a place where I'm being called to go, that's going to put me in a whole lot of uncomfortable places with a bunch of people that I've never met before, speaking a textile language that didn't even know existed before I got on these calls. So what about you? Where did you get that thing that made you move from knowing I'm not there to taking steps to go there? How did that get infused in Megan Eddings?
I don't know. So now I feel like I'm talking to a psychologist. So let's see. I don't know. Holy, when I was 3 years old. Yeah, no, I don't know where it came from, but I've always been from a small town in Rhode Island. And the cool thing is we all have unique stories, and no one's story is less than or greater than. I used to think, and I could have family listening right now, that mine in a financial sense was less than, and that would limit me and my life. And my first plane flight was, I was 15 years old. I went to go visit my friend in South Carolina. My first time out of Rhode Island on a plane, 15. And I just saw this whole new world. And I met all of her friends and I thought, gosh, they're so cool. They're so nice and they live so far away. So then I just started thinking at a young age, well, where else can I go? What other kinds of people can I meet? And so in my town, everybody was white. And so I said, okay, I need to go to a college that is kind of far from home, but not too far, but also has diversity, because I know if I can meet people in other states that are super nice and let's say look like me, what if I meet people from other states that don't look like me and what I'll learn from them? And so, that fear, it's a thing. It's a thing, Greg and Jay, and people have it. And I guess people listening to it right now is the most important thing to know is you're not alone in that fear.
Right.
And you don't have to make a huge, drastic change. If you're not feeling fulfilled and you don't even know what your calling is, but it's something, just do little things. It goes back to kind of earlier when we were talking that we do have free time during the day. I mean, we do. Think about what you look at your phone when you're sitting on the toilet. I'm being very honest. Like you could literally take a step to reach out to someone and kind of just dabble in what might fulfill you. So breaking through the fear necessarily isn't a huge, drastic move. It's taking those small steps and acknowledging the fear is there. Okay, we all have it. This is not new. I'm not the only person with sweaty palms right now. Gently pushing it away and then just taking small steps to see what that fulfilled path might be.
Love it. Absolutely love it. You don't have to boil the ocean, which is a probably maybe too often used metaphor. But people do feel like they have to change everything at once, and that can be that can actually paralyze you if you think that's going to be the case. So, by the way, note everybody, driving, Megan listens to a podcast that changes her life.
Yeah.
That didn't require her spending thousands of dollars or going back and getting an MBA or a PhD. It just was, so let me take this moment to see what I can learn from someone else.
And she also said you could do research on the toilet too, so that there is viable time.
I'm being really honest here.
It's such a true thing. I mean, there's so many people. Like I was talking to my son the other day, and he's always on his phone. And I said, "You're on your phone a lot." Like I said, "Do you realize how much you're on your phone?" "I'm not on my phone that much." And I said, "What is that much?" And he was like, "I'm probably only on my phone like 5 hours a day." And I was like, I bet it's triple. But 5 hours a day.
Well, first of all, he thought 5 hours a day wasn't much.
Correct. That's where my eyes got. But then I was just like, it's way more than 5 hours. So I was like, let's look at your screen time. It was way more than 5 hours. And I was just like, imagine if you would just take 20 minutes per that 8 hours. How much time you would get. And so we did a calculation. And I said, you would have 55 hours a month that you could use for productive time. If you just took 20 minutes per one of those hours a day and actually did research. And he was just like, I was like, that's a week and a half work. If you just took 20 minutes an hour and did something different beside that phone. So and I'm glad that you mentioned that because we can, right? Most people, and I'm guilty of it, go to the bathroom, what do? Social media, scrolling, right? And you could be doing research or be doing other things. So let me ask you, tell me so far in the 5 years, what's the biggest mistake that you've made and that actually you turned it into your biggest success?
Mistake.
Biggest.
Yeah. I try not to regret anything in life or say that was a mistake because you learn from it. ...
Yeah. Every mistake. That's what I'm saying. Like you turn it into success.
There is a huge one from last year. Huge. I thought so. Last year, our company we blew up. I mean, in a good way. And and Houston is just so darn supportive. And I was on TV. They did a commercial about, the mask making and just pivoting and female and, all that juicy goodness. Well, someone saw me on TV, and got a hold of me, and they, run a very large company, multiple zeros. And they basically said, we want to partner, like come to the office immediately. I'm the first guest they had, like back in June or July, to their office. Wasn't even open it. They opened it for me. I went to the office, and I will never forget driving to the office. It's just like what you said earlier, Jay. So here I am, sweatpants, t-shirt, working from home, put on a few LBs, the old Corona weight. And they're like, come to the office. And so I'm like, geez, I have to go upstairs and put on like a work dress from like back in my medical, like pre-COVID dress. And I'm like, shit. So I go up there, I zipper the dress. I couldn't even wear a bra. I put on so much weight, but I'm like, whatever, put the makeup on, the mask and the hair, and let's roll. Like, what are you going to do? So I walk into this meeting, and I walk in, and there's literally the CEO of the company, 4 VPs from around the world on a video call. This all happened within an hour and a half. Like, when can you come in today? Their chief scientist, and they tell me that they have something that they didn't have any experience in consumer facing products. And I'm all over TV in Houston because I pivoted to face masks, and we did really, well from a business standpoint. And then just a story of giving back, et cetera. So they tell me basically, hey, we want to start a new company with you. And I'm going to back it up one more spot. As I'm driving to that meeting, so I call my team. At the time, I had 2 employees, and I say employees, team members. Mm-hmm. I'm driving to the meeting, and I call like my ride or die. Like, she started with me 3 years ago. I'm like, girl, oh my gosh, the company's worth multi-billions. I'm going, couldn't wear a bra, but the dress was on. Hope it doesn't pop off. I said, I'm meeting with a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. And do you know what she said to me? Straight face. I mean, I could hear it. She's like, Megan, and he is meeting with the CEO of Accel Lifestyle.
Wow.
Just like that. And I was like, and it just changed everything. So my team, obviously, but she said that, and I'm like, that's right. Then I walk in. Anyway, they're like, we want to start a new company with you. And I'm thinking like, you gotta be kidding me. But so anyway, I get in the car. My first phone call was actually not to my husband, it was to one of my advisors. And I always told him, I'm like, another founder that I follow heavily is the founder of Outdoor Voices, Ty Haney. And she basically had a fitness apparel brand, still does, and, kind of milking along, whatever. And someone in J. Crew saw her close and said, yo, we need 11,000 units. And she was like, oh, and then she gets investors, and boom, skyrockets, done. And so I always knew there'd be like a pivotal moment, even bigger than a pivot that I did with the masks. And I thought this was it. And spent about 6 to 8 weeks, hired attorneys, hired all sorts of people with cash that I did not have set aside for this, with the belief that they were telling me the truth about the magic that they did have was actually magic. And at the end of the day, it was not magic. And I'm not even kidding. I was like slightly depressed for like 2 months because I was misled, for lack of better words. And it affected my marriage, my relationships, my relationship with my team. I cried and bawled my eyes out to my husband, my mother, and my team. After about 6 weeks, when I realized, I am a very outgoing, positive, vivacious person. But the fact that I saw the dollar signs is, if the magic was there, my company would have been worth $1 billion by this year. No exaggeration. It would have been like game changing. I was already like, what up, whoever, like some of these news people are, CNN, whatever.
Right.
And so it didn't happen. And as I would ask these questions and they were giving me wishy-washy answers, make a long story short, it just didn't happen. And I spent a lot of money that I didn't have, cash that I had saved. I'm self-funded. And I was devastated. Devastated. I had to go talk to someone professionally about it. It was I just couldn't believe it. And then here I am. We went from, making $35,000 in 2019. We launched to 7 figures last year. So Accel Lifestyle, outwardly facing to the community and social media and all that. Killing it. Oh my gosh, who are you? The next Sarah Blakely and all that. And little did people know that for 2 months, I was basically depressed. Didn't work out, just was in survival mode, started drinking more than I normally do. I'm just putting it all out there because I don't
Megan, can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to applaud you.
Yeah.
Seriously, because listen, This is what people need to hear.
Yep.
Everyone puts a facade out there, and excuse my language, with bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, on, like you said, on social media and all these other things, and you're sitting here and you're putting it out there because you have no damn ego. And I love you for it. I love that you're sharing this, because guess what? You are going to be that $1 billion company. And sometimes you do get kicked.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go down. And I just applaud you seriously, because I'm inspired by you, because you know what? That's what business is all about. That's what life's all about. That's what success is all about. And yeah, so what? You were down. You made a mistake. You were down for 2 months, but you know what?
Right.
You made you better. It made you who you are right now. It made your marriage better. It made everything better. In the moment, it was terrible.
Yeah.
You know, but most people don't come out. Most people are just say, you know what? I give up. You know,
I'm not going to trust anybody. Trust.
And what I want the
window.
listeners to hear is, for the last 45 minutes, we've heard one of the most positive people that we've heard on this podcast. I mean, through and through and through. Even telling the story, you were super positive. And you just accepted it. So, I mean, and now you can laugh at it, and that's life. So whatever you're going through in this moment, whoever's listening to this that needs to hear this, like the Sarah Blakely, whatever you're going through in this very moment right now, there is another side. Embrace it. Try to find the lesson, figure out what happened, because, you know, I don't think it was a mistake. And that's why I like to ask this question, right? It taught you a huge lesson. Have you read the book, Talking to Strangers?
I have not.
You
I've
should
heard of it,
read
but I have
well.
not. Okay.
You should read Talking to Strangers, because it talks a lot about what you're talking about right now, with communicating with people and thinking that people think one thing, and misreading and hearing what you want to hear, not what you should hear.
Mm-hmm.
So just it's a really good book for the listeners too. But Megan, I had to stop you, because like a lot of times, and you know, people get on here, we want to hear the success stories, but like what I love to hear is that. I love to hear the people that are real and honest and true. And you've helped a lot of people today. I'm going to tell you that you've helped lots and lots of people. So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you. I mean, yeah, we all have struggles, and I've not, you know, I'm still not quite figuring out the social media thing. I mean, yeah, I post pictures, I do cute videos, 15 seconds, but I'd love to have a platform. And quite frankly, today is my first platform to actually share the truth behind, you know, the glitz and the glam and the 7 figures, and like, but the truth, like, you know, the truth,
Mm-hmm.
the truth. And so you asked, like, tell me about, you know, mistake, and then, you know, how did I make it into success? Well, let me tell you. So last couple months, a blessing has been that companies have noticed me and my company. And I remember, like, 4 or 5 years ago, I'm just, whatever book I can read, podcast, you know, co-working talk I can go to, there were these 3 dudes sitting up on stage, and they were VCs. I didn't even know what a VC was. So I go in there, and everyone's asking questions, and even though I'm very outgoing, I'm very quiet at those things, because I just want to listen. I just want to sit there, and I want to listen to conversation. I'm not a talker. I'm a listener. So I'm in the back, like I'm standing up, not even sitting. This guy raises his hand in the audience and asks one of the VCs, okay, so you just went through this presentation with 5 bullet points of, you know, what you should do for a founder to get the, you know, ... VC, whatever. What is the number 1 piece of advice that you have for entrepreneurs from a VC? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, be so good, the VCs come to you. And so,
and just so you guys know, a VC is a venture capitalist.
Yeah.
So basically, they invest money in your company, and they take part of it. So like, if you own 100%, like I do right now, a VC might come in, give me a few $million, and they own like 40% of my company.
Like Shark Tank.
Yeah, you know what? Exactly. Perfect. Like Shark Tank. And so I always carry that in the back of my mind, because back to the podcast that we talked about before, there is a quote that I carry. Now, I usually throw a swear word in it, but I won't do that today. You can guess the word. But from all those podcasts, and like the founder of Vice magazine, you know, Epic Bar, all of them, this podcast, at the end of every one. It's the F word, and my mom could be listening, and grandmas and all that. No. Yeah, but you'll know where to insert it.
Make the best decision for you.
That's right. And so if they can do it, I can do it. That is what I came away with. So if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah. So that is, I tell myself that, you know, all the time. But the blessing, or the win from the not good experience last year was these VCs and these private equity and these angel investors reaching out. So last year, when I was, 6 to 8 weeks working on this, deal, I, learning, always be quiet, would sit on these calls with the attorneys, yelling at each other and redlining and crossing out. So I basically became, I'm not going to say a contract attorney, but I learned a lot. So God bless whoever wants to partner with me next, because I'll have an attorney, but like they won't even know what I'm coming for because of what I went through last year and just learning experiences from that. And the best part about the story is, number one, I survived. Number two, my business did not tank. And number three, the most important, number three is I learned a great deal about relationships and not just trying to look at the shiny ball and really understand someone for who they are. And I would say, because of my personality, the fourth is I can share it with people now. I can share my story and let them know how down I was and that I learned from it. I came out, and the conversations that I'm having now with these potential investors, I would have never had this language or this confidence or this swag, if you will, if I didn't experience that last year.
Well, you've been on the ropes and you got off the ropes. And so there's so much in that. God, I feel like this should be the first of your platforms with us. Like we should do a series of these, because at every juncture, there's this place where Megan Eddings says, either this is not who I am, or these are not the people I need to be associated with.
That's right.
And that is a constant thing for people. I mean, who doesn't have those thoughts at some point in time? I'm in this job. Is this the job I'm really supposed to be in? So do I stay because it pays the bills, or do I actually venture out? And I don't have to leave this job to get the next job. And that's what I'm getting from you, is that that there is another chapter, and there's another chapter. Like the Megan Eddings book, it has a cover, but I don't see a back cover to it, because it's like this huge 3-ring binder that you keep putting all this experience into, but everything that you're putting in is more valuable because of everything you already put in. Like you can't just jump to chapter 33 of your story and understand what's in chapter 33, all the rest of it. And that's kind of what our opportunity is, I think, when it comes to success, is that understanding that the wounds and scars and bumps and COVID pounds and headaches and depression and maybe even getting in a fetal position under your desk on some days is where you're going to be, but it doesn't have to be where you stay.
Right.
You can be in the middle of chaos, but you don't have to be chaos, which is really a wonderful thing. That it's a great gift that you're giving us with what you're sharing. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
And so, I don't know. I kind of low key almost enjoyed that whole psychologist reference earlier. I don't know, because you have to go to school longer than I did to get that. So thank you very much. I felt that was a little comeuppance, actually. That was
I don't
very
think she was
exciting.
giving you credit.
Well,
Greg.
can I just have this moment, please? Thank you very much. You mentioned being on that conference call with all these textile guys using a language and terminology that it could have been Greek for all you knew. But these are the people that are kind of like in the central nervous system of what it is that you're trying to get to. So how did you navigate that? What did you do in the middle of, I have no idea what these people are talking about, to still being able to kind of come through it and do what you've been able to do?
Excellent question. And I didn't realize what I was doing at the time until 2 years later, when I was pretty close to getting the patent pending, in 120 countries. What I did was, and this applies to any industry, I like to listen a lot. So I'd be on these conference calls and they'd be saying all these words, and I didn't know a lot of words. Who knew like yarn had a thickness? I'm like, what? And so I literally would start writing down all the words, and also they couldn't see me. So I was on conference calls, so they couldn't see me. So I would just start writing these words down. and they're talking real fast. And so if I even got a slight context of what the word may mean, okay, that means like how the threads put together. Okay. Oh wait, fiber versus staple. So there's different. So I kind of scribbled the words down, and then the time consuming part was then I go research, and I'd say what I think the words mean based on the context of what I heard. And this was the magic. So then the next call, I wouldn't do another conference call and try to use my now new lingo on a conference call with 8 to 10 people. I would call one of the guys that I like trusted or knew the most, which is not that much, and just slide one of the words into like a question and see if his answer agreed with me. Like basically his answer told me that I knew what the hell I was talking about, basically.
Got it.
It was like a testing.
You were test driving it.
I mean, fake it till you make it. I mean, right. Fake it till you make it is definitely an awesome experience. It's an expression that I love, but you're really never faking it. I'm always listening. Like, and there is so much that I don't know, and so much that I could be doing today for, I'm sure, my company that could make it much better. But the fun in it is not knowing what chapter 33 is going to bring, is not knowing what the challenges are going to, that's like the fun in it, because I like to say I don't get as rattled, but I was like depressed for 2 months last year. But I know that there is a light at the end of every tunnel. And we only have so many hours in the day, so much room in our sphere, the Megan Eddings sphere, for people to be in it. So I also always tell people, and I didn't learn this until I started my own company, when I first made the announcement to my family and friends, entrepreneur, a lot of them said, are you I made great money, and my value at the time was extremely tied to how much money I had in the bank, like extremely. It wasn't about me saying I get depressed, I'm anxious, I might gain weight, I body image, like, woof, you don't talk about that. It's like how much money you got in the bank, what kind of car are you driving, what kind of red bottom shoes you got on. So that's like how I used to think. And now I just think like, the money will come, but I was going somewhere with that, guys. I'm not going to lie, I forgot where I was going. I got all
no, but you were talking about faking it till you're making it, not really faking it, you're learning.
So this is what I tell people. I learned early on entrepreneurship. We all have a lot of negative influences in our life. It could be a sibling. It could be a parent. It could be what you perceived as your best friend because you've known them since 2nd grade. And so if you want to make a change in your life, you've got to make a change in that circle. And I am not going to tell you it's easy, because it is not, because I'm genuinely a kind, giving person, but I have had to push out some people in my life, which they will never understand why, even though because we're not thinking the same, but I've had to get rid of some people in my life that were a negative influence. And not only does that remove the negativity from my life, but it opens up opportunities for positive people to come in. So that's also something that I tell people.
Yeah, kind of a Jim Collins emptying some seats on the bus so that you can have the seats open for the right people to get on the bus. Right. I don't know a single entrepreneur at any scale that for people who are considering being entrepreneurs, this is a takeaway. Not one do I know that made the grand announcement that you're talking about, where, we had harps and violins and and all this, we thought the announcement itself was going to endear us to people, and they were going to go, oh my God, virtually including myself. When we made that announcement, I was shocked by the number of people that said, wait, what? Are you kidding me? The people like you over at that job. What are you doing? And these are not people that didn't care about me. In fact, Megan, I think to some degree, they thought they were protecting you by saying what they said to you. But that level of protection keeps you from growing outside of it. And so it is a tough thing. Now, I'm sure you had people that said to you, it's about time. What the hell you been waiting for? We've known you were this. You were meant for something bigger. So there's always those, but that is not the most. That's not the majority of the crew. That wasn't even 10% of the people in my circle. So it can kind of, I don't know. It shakes your foundation a little bit, and will make some people retreat. I'm just glad that you didn't. But if you're going to make that move, just know that comes along with it. That is so, Absolutely. That's such a gem. So
So Megan, you talked about success in the medical sales and having a certain amount of money in the bank and the red bottom shoes. And that success to you then has changed to what success is to you now. And we always say, I think success can change for people weekly, monthly, yearly, it could change quarterly. But when you think of the definition of success today, not what you used to think, but right now, like when you get up in the morning and you set goals and you say, okay, if we could take the company to this level, if my life could look like this, I could have this. What are the things that today Megan says, I feel successful if I could do this and this was my life?
Wow. Actually, I haven't really thought about that.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Success to me used to be 100% money in the bank, for sure. Success to me now, if I just think about it and say, I always like to do like first thing that comes to my mind because that's just the most authentic. When it comes to business, okay, before I say anything, no matter what, it has to always be in line with my morals and ethics. So no matter what I do in my life, personally, professionally, business, like that goes back to the head on the pillow thing at night, because there have been some opportunities that have come across my plate that from a financial aspect could be quite lucrative. But I'm like, will my grandmothers be coming out of the graves on this one? So that's like the first thing. Cause
Right.
It's very easy to get attracted by the big, money thing. I do like money. I love to win. I mean, I'm going to put it out there. I love to win. And so success to me means basically if I'm working on a project, I love creating things. I never thought I did. I mean, I love creating businesses. One thing that's been really cool is people have reached out to me that I have not talked to in years because of following me on LinkedIn or, hearing me on a podcast, but mostly LinkedIn. And they work for these huge companies, huge. And there's another company that I started and they heard about the product that I'm making and they're like, we'd like to work with you. Maybe we could like have your product part of our portfolio. And so from a business success, that could be huge financially for the company. But from a personal success, that person who I've not spoken to sometimes in 10 years, that they thought that much of me, and I was a different person back then 10 years ago, that they thought that much of me back there then 10 years ago, that whatever I did 10 years ago, they want to be part of it even now, 10 years later. So that to me, it's kind of like when they say when you sell something, the best customers are the repeat buyers because it means they've already experienced what you're giving. It's kind of like that. So there's not a doubt in my mind, we're being like real transparent, that I want whatever companies that I do to go global. No questions asked, because I think if they can do it, why can't I? Success, this is actually something relatively new that I haven't put out there. So this podcast was very timely. I was doing some thinking last week, and even though I love building businesses and, creating science and textiles and creating solutions, at the end of the day, I love inspiring people and just giving them confidence that, I could have used throughout parts of my life. And so an arm of the business, of Megan Eddings is, to me, success will be to have more people hear my story in the hopes that I inspire them and bring them confidence. What does that look like? We started here today. I have said things on this podcast that I've never said before, because I said, if I'm going to start really inspiring people, then I need to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here, folks. This is the new launch pad for Megan Eddings, and you have done it in a not only an exciting way, but a very classy way and a very authentic way. So, wow, I feel like we're in the garage with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak right now. It feels that way. That's exciting.
Wow.
That's exciting. So,
well, thank you to you both. To a lot of people, most people, all people open up only if they feel that the audience in the room is receiving of them opening up. So thank you, Jay and Greg, for basically allowing me to have the environment to speak freely and just, be myself. I did not come on this podcast thinking I was going to be as real as I was, but the moment we met, I thought, well, Meg, if you really want to inspire, stop talking, just, the silly stuff and just get to the real
And I
stuff.
will tell you, that's the key, because people can relate with you, right? I mean, the thing is everyone hearing that story before of you being depressed, problems with my marriage and all these things that happened that shouldn't have happened, but I let it happen. Like everyone's had that, right? And some point of their life, everyone's had that. And that to me is, people don't really care that much about your success. They care about the journey. They care about how you got there. They care because what you said over and over and over is, if you can do it, I can do it. Right. And that's how people need to think. So let me ask you another quick question, because, one of the things you said is you want now to inspire people and instill confidence in them. So let's say that you have 3 days to live. And I know this is a morbid question, but I just need I need you to go down this road with me. You got 3 days to live.
Let's go.
And the universe says to you, Megan, you can leave 3 things on a billboard that will be here for the rest of eternity, that you're known for, that you're going to leave people with to live their life by. These 3 key things to life that are going to make them successful, give them peace, and inspire other people. What are the 3 things that you would want to be on a billboard?
Are these sentences or phrases?
It could be a sentence. It could be a phrase. It could just be, hey, this is, for example, have no fear, or, something like that, things that you live by, that you're like, I'm going to take what I lived by that made me successful, these 3 key elements of my life, and I'm going to leave them with you, world.
Okay. First one, kindness is free.
Love that one.
You are uniquely beautiful. There is always light at the end of the tunnel.
No matter how long the tunnel, there is light at the end of it.
Amen to that. I didn't say which tunnel. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly.
I didn't say how bright that light was. Yeah, I just said there's light.
But you'll see it, and you may have to get around the bend. Can I tell you, or may I tell you, my English teacher would probably correct
My
me.
grandmother would too.
Yes. That one of the things that, we talked a little bit about just before we came on, but I want to make sure it comes into the podcast as well. I told you that one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on is that I have 3 daughters. And I think that your story is inspirational and guiding, no matter who you are. But I think it's important, because I think of my 3 daughters, about the real power that there is in representation. And not just representation because you're a woman, because that's part of who you are, but that is not an insignificant thing. It's also representation for little Megan from the small town in Rhode Island, who was 15 before she got on a plane and went to, and actually got out. Because there are people that live in small towns their entire lives, or maybe a town over. That it is a gift to have representation where people can look and they can see you, because I think what's happening for a lot of people that are going to listen to this and the people that are seeing this is that they are taking on your mantra. There are people right now watching and they're like, you know what? If she can bleep and do this, I can bleep and do this. Yep. And so it's such a full circle thing that has happened as a result. And that's why this podcast, why we think it's so important, because it's informational, it's educational, it's, it shows pathways that people have taken and what people do. But you are my neighbor. That's who I feel like I'm talking to now. And when I'm talking to my neighbor and my neighbor can accomplish this, then not only can I do it, but I can tell my daughters they can do it. And I can tell my grandchildren they can do it. It doesn't seem, now it comes with hard work. It comes with discipline. It comes with ethics. I've read the word ethics shows up all over your, your interviews, your web page. It's there everywhere. So those things are foundational pieces. But if you're willing to do the work, the representation that you are presenting to the entire world, we think our podcast is probably a little bigger than it actually is. We like to say to the entire world, is you are looking at someone that is showing you that this is possible. And that's a real gift. So I just wanted to make sure, because we're going to get out of here in a little while. We kept you over an hour, but I just wanted to make sure that for my daughters and my sister and women in general, that they see the powerhouse that they see in front of you, them right now, and that she's your neighbor. How awesome is that? I mean, everything else is awesome, but that is super awesome. So thank you for that.
Hey, Greg, that was very selfish of you because I'm a girl dad too. So I have three daughters as well.
And Jay, you just had it. I was scoping out your gram. You just had a baby like yesterday.
Yeah.
I always, you didn't have the baby.
Yeah. That's what I always tell people. I just had a baby. Well, my wife had a baby, but I mean,
you just brought her that push gift.
That's right. That's right. We had a baby. Thank you. Yeah, she's almost a month old already. So it's sleepless nights. Have been happening for the last month. It's been amazing.
Well, your lighting looks fantastic. You don't look tired.
Oh, thank you. I
always say if I don't have the right lighting, I'll click.
Yeah. No, it's all about lighting. It's all about lighting. Yeah. You can't. If not, you would see dark circles and bloodshot eyes. So the lighting's good. So hey, I'm gonna ask you another question, because I think this is definitely one that I'm gonna let my daughter listen to when she's old enough to listen to this and hear from you, because I think you're going to impact a lot of people's lives, but I think women too, because I have three daughters that I think are the best thing in the entire world. And I will do anything to make sure they're as successful as they want to be. So you're not successful on accident. It wasn't an accident that you have success in your life. And, when Greg was trying to be a psychiatrist earlier and ask you these deep questions.
He is so shady, man.
And it all comes from somewhere in the way that we're raised or experiences that we've had or a father or, whatever, but it also comes from habits. And we always kind of like to dig out of people, like, what is one key habit, just one, that you do every single day religiously, that you think if other people would do what you do every single day, they would have some level of success in their life or be on the right path for that success?
I write everything down. Everything. And by write, I mean I use either my notes section. I have about 185 titles of notes in my phone. And I write my notes for the actions for the day in my calendar. I even sometimes, and for the ladies listening, or men with long hair, I sometimes even write in the calendar, it's time to wash my hair or shave my legs. I don't write sex down. I mean, but some people can do that too. Whatever.
If you're busy.
Yeah, it's I write everything down. I have to be organized because as an entrepreneur, your day is crazy. Oh, another piece of advice. And I learned this in a medical equipment sales class. Don't fill up your calendar. So if you're sitting, let's say Sunday night, Monday morning, and you're looking at your calendar for the week, pretty much for the most part, what you're doing for the week ahead. The 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior, success is not filling up your day with back-to-back phone calls and, et cetera. Success is making sure that, and I still struggle with this, that the calls and the emails and the time you're spending is actually valuable. And you're not just psychologically saying, oh, I feel accomplished today because I did a bunch of shit. So that success to me is, and that is something I struggle with still, is to make sure the stuff that I write down and that I'm doing is that I write it down. That's number one. Don't expect anyone, unless you're like a savant and you can't forget a thing. I mean, no one's like that. Very few people. It's like, Jay doesn't smell. There's very few of them out there, but
he smells.
yeah.
Not true. It's not true.
Yeah. So write it. I write everything down. And it is a challenge with me often to make sure that I'm not just filling my day with stuff and that I'm working on bettering myself and the business. Like, for example, I started a fitness apparel company and, grew up super, fitness, family, etc. Well, my gym shut down a month ago because of the pandemic. You think I joined another gym? No. Because I'm like, no, I just got to keep working and like whatever. And finally I was like, Megan, practice. And we all know about the endorphins. I'm not saying you have to be a bodybuilder, but like, just move, go for a walk. So I finally said to myself, Megan, put yourself somewhere on this hierarchy of importance. So I joined the gym last night. I got the tour, took a spin class. I have my booty workout tonight at 6:45. I have spin tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. So and it's all written down in the calendar because taking care of myself should be just as important as, conference calls with customers.
Wow. And I want to reiterate, because I think that probably is one of the most important things that people can do. Because I will tell you, it's something that I've done for years. And that is write it down and put it on a calendar, like schedule it. Writing it down, a lot of people write stuff down. Like whenever somebody creates a to-do list, I always say to my wife, and she gets pissed when I say this, I'm always like, that's your to-don't list. And she was like, what do you mean my to-don't list? I was like, you're not going to do anything with it. It's just going to like sit there. I was like, when are you going to do it? And she was like, what do you mean when I'm going to do it? I said, put it on your calendar. And she was like, yeah, but I'm going to do it. And I'm like, no, you're not. So that's you got to calendar things. If you calendar things, that's when you're going to get things done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially with 3 kids. I mean, yeah, you forget things and you write on a piece of paper and you have to consistently, it's like a habit. Is it easy in the beginning to do? Absolutely not. No. I mean, if you're not used to it, no. But you know
what's great about these phones is you don't even have to write it down. You can say, Siri, can you put an appointment on my calendar for tomorrow at this time? And it does it for you. Like you don't even have to write it down. You can do it right on your calendar. That's what I do. When I'm sitting on the day, I just say, Siri, put it on my calendar. I mean, everyone has that on their phone.
I'm not that advanced. I'll be honest. My mother-in-law uses Siri and I'm like, who are you? Like Bill Gates? Like, I type and people do voice notes and I'm like, what voice notes? My old fashionedness is literally,
write it down.
It's working for you.
I'm just trying to give people no excuses. Like you can put it on your calendar directly.
But that it's so Jay actually got me. And Jay, when you said you put it on your calendar, he had a little moment. I'm just going to tell you, he had a little moment because this man puts everything on his calendar. And I wasn't doing that before. I'd make the list in the morning. So I did write it down, but then at 4 o'clock, I'm like, holy crap, I haven't done any of this stuff. And then I get stressed out about it. But what you said about writing it down and putting things is that Megan in the hierarchy is on her calendar too. Because that little ping will remind you that you didn't just sit your butt down for a couple of moments and just relax or read for 30 minutes or listen to a podcast or take a nap or, so you have to schedule. You can't treat the rest of the world as if it's more important than you, because then you won't have the tools to be able to do the things you want to do. So thank you for that.
All right. One last question. Megan, you said you've read a lot of books and listened to a lot of podcasts. What's your 3 favorite books?
Oh, here comes the honesty. I don't know why, but I can't remember any of their names. And I'm just being the only one author. I don't know what it is. It's like Men with Movies. Like you guys can quote a whole paragraph of a movie that you saw 20 years ago. Yet I can't tell you an author of a book I read last week.
What about titles?
Okay. One that I read, and this is like literally
Lola will do the research.
This is the easiest read I've ever done in my life. And I read it like literally at one sitting at a pool. The Power of Persuasion.
Yep.
And I will tell you, it's a lot of the subjects are about Donald Trump. This has nothing to do with politics. I don't care who people vote for, but they use Donald Trump and some of the things he did when running for president, et cetera, to draw a story and a conclusion. And I found that book very interesting. What's the one from like back in the day, like the 5 Geez, they're all upstairs.
Are you talking about the seven habits of highly effective people?
I did read that. Yeah, I read that one. That was great. I read that a while ago. Actually, that one was really good. And that's a slow read. That's not like the Power of Persuasion. That's a little more of a slower read. And quite frankly, you can keep rereading it. Or just open up to any chapter and just keep rereading it for. There was I think the one that has the number 5 in it. The 5
irrefutable laws of success.
It's red and white, I think, the cover.
My wife is loving you so much right now, Megan.
No,
I was telling
I don't remember.
We were looking at a movie the other day, and the Equalizer, the movie, Denzel Washington.
Oh, Denzel.
So we saw the Equalizer 2, and the first one was on just recently, and she's looking at it, and I was like, did you really what'd you think? Did you think the second one was better than the first one? She said, I don't remember seeing the first one. I was like, you were sitting right next to me. Watch. She's like, I don't remember it. See, there's a power in that, because what that means is that once she's done with it, it gets flushed if it has no practical application.
Greg, are you sure you don't have the same thing? Because I swear you watch movies like 7 to 10 times.
I do. That's part of my problem. There's an 800 number for that, by the way. I found it. I Googled it.
And Megan, who do you follow closely? Podcasts, social media?
So all my friends and family know if there's a birth in the family, if my best friend's flying to Cancun or whatever, you better text me or call me, because I don't follow almost anyone, because if I'm on social media, I'm posting for the brand or the business. I follow Sarah Blakely. I follow Sophia Amoroso from Girl Boss out in California. I follow, only because you just asked the question, David Goggins. Love David Goggins, because swear words get me excited.
Yeah, he does a lot of swearing.
Yep.
He does a lot of swearing.
Those are the big ones.
Do you follow her husband, Jesse?
I just started. Yeah, because he just seems like cool. I'm like, he looks like a mountain man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent individual. I mean, he's super intelligent. And he started a private airline company. That's how he met Sarah. I
don't know that story. I got to find on the podcast. I got to listen to.
Yeah, I met both of them. So I know he met Sarah. He flew Sarah when she started getting money and asked her out on a date, and then now they have like 5 kids together. So
yeah, and they got married like later in life, and kids. Yeah.
Yep.
Those are the big ones. Serena Williams is one of them, because especially since she's now a powerhouse in the entrepreneur world. I mean, we all know it from tennis, but to see that I love following people that, there's some actresses like Emma Watson that are known for being, an athlete or an actress. Yeah. And then they're straight up like A-Rod. I had no idea that he did anything besides baseball. Yeah,
he does gyms. He's got UFC gyms. Like he's big. He's big. And I mean, J-Lo is pretty big too. So, I mean,
I definitely follow J-Lo. So like my next life, I didn't know where you're going with that 3 days thing. Like, who would you want to be in your next life? Like literally. So like when people said, I love handwritten notes, it's like a thing I do. It's like a thing I love to get. Like I don't need gifts. I don't anything physical besides like a note. And sometimes my team, like one of the best compliments, she said, I wish I still have it upstairs, but like she called me like, the Beyonce 2.0, where I'm like, what? So yeah, Jennifer Lopez, we'd be kicking it. We'd be great friends. She just doesn't know me yet.
Yeah, she is a beast. She is a beast.
Talk about a work ethic. Yeah.
So at this point, I like to do a recap of the podcast. So, and I forgot to tell you in the beginning, because it can be distracting. I write a lot. I take a lot of notes because
I didn't think you were napping. Yeah.
No, because I can't remember anything. So that's why I got to write everything down. I mean, that's the secret right there. I just can't remember shit. So I got to write it all down. So this is the ingredients for Megan Eddings' success. And Greg and I are writing a book called The Success Paradigm, where we're going to use people like Megan Eddings and quote you. And are you okay with us quoting you in our book and saying that these are your ingredients for success? Okay.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Fulfillment equals success. And I've paraphrased and kind of put my spin on these as well. So because I have to write in shorthand, and sometimes I don't understand all of my handwriting. So
1/3 of the notes.
no, that's not true, Greg. It's like 1/8 now. If you open your eyes, you can find greatness. Love relationships, love winning. Are we ever at full capacity? Love problem solving. How are you impacting the world? Be early to everything. We have a lot of idle time. We can We have a lot of idle time. We can convert to productive time. A podcast that everyone should listen to on NPR is How I Built This with Sarah Blakely. Do lots of research. Just ask and you will receive. Not knowing can actually be a gift. Have attitude of tell me no one more time, please. Have to be able to put your head on a pillow at night and know that you did your best that day. Fear will always exist no matter how big or small you are. Team members, not employees. If they can do it, you can do it. Your definition of success, there were many, but love to win, take a company global, and inspiring people and bringing them confidence. Always have a great attorney, no matter how much you think you know. Relationships matter, which come up again. You need to listen a lot. Ask questions to validate your understanding. Challenges are fun. Change your circle. Your legacy. Kindness is free. You are uniquely beautiful. And there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And write everything down and put it on your calendar and spend valuable time on your tasks. And then the one that you ended with that I think was big is put yourself on some level of importance. So I think that was a great one to end with. Is I think most people don't do that. They don't make themselves important, and you can't be the best version of you if you're not the best version of you. And the only way you can do that is to put yourself first. And the books, The Power of Persuasion, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then People You Follow, Sarah Blakely. And the Sophia one, I didn't get the last name. I wrote something down, but it's Amoroso or something like.
Amoroso, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew I was.
There's the 1/8 right there.
Yeah, there it is.
There's the 1/8.
David Goggins and powerhouse Serena Williams, and that, my friends, is the ingredients for success for Megan. And it was Megan Eddings. It was such a pleasure. I had so much fun today with you. I told you it was going to be a fun journey. The fact that you were so transparent, I promise you, has helped so many people today. And anybody out there, that's truly how you help people in life be successful, is to be transparent and be giving and not try to be something that you're not. So thank you, Megan. I really appreciate you.
Yes. As we wrap this up, Megan, you are kind. You are uniquely beautiful. And for a lot of people, you have been absolutely a light at the end of a lot of tunnels today. And thank you for that. You're changing the world. Have a great one.
Thank you.